Yo, what's up? This is Peacoll, better known on Twitch as Patty. I'm going to be doing this commentary run of my current world record run for Maldita Castilla, 100% best ending, for three purposes, really. To, first of all, kind of talk about the game a little more than I did in the actual run. Pretty much all I did in the actual run was swear whenever I would mess up or be really close to messing up. So maybe get some actual words in there. Second reason would be kind of to do a bit of a tutorial. There really isn't one for this game, and I've gotten a couple questions asking if there's some material or something where some of the strats are explained a little better, some of the mechanics are explained a little better, so I'm hoping to do that a little bit with this one. And also to kind of get it fleshed out for SGDQ submissions, which actually open up tomorrow as of this recording. I'm hoping to get this game into Summer Games Done Quick 2015, but that remains to be seen. So that's why I'm doing this now. So I guess let's get right into it. Something to explain before I start. There is an in-game timer programmed into the game. It's lower than actual time because actual time starts when you start the game, and in-game time starts a few seconds after that. And every time you transition between levels or you die or anything like that, there are certain points in the game where the in-game timer will actually stop, where real time keeps going. So usually it's really just been me and Mr. Weebles that have been running this game in recent time, but usually people go by in-game time just because it's a lot more universal and a lot easier to understand than real time is. I just do real time along with in-game time for my own benefit so I can have splits in order to compare different segments to each other. So let's get right into it. Let's start it off. If I remember correctly, I didn't get the best RNG with the weapon drop at the beginning. I think it spawns a axe. You can get a sword, an axe, a sickle or hook, and a ball and chain or bola in that order from weapon chests. The sickle can have three on screen at a time, so it's the fastest weapon and can do the best output, but the ball and chain has a really wide range and also goes through different floors and walls. Not all floors and walls. It's really weird which ones it can and can't go through, but it can go through some floors and some walls that the hook cannot. Some other interesting little mechanics about this game that are good to know is that every time you walk off of a ledge, Don Ramiro, which is the name of your character, loses momentum just slightly. So for most of the run, it's faster to jump off of every possible ledge that you can. Some ledges you will walk off of just because it either doesn't lose you time or it's better for movement on the screen in order to avoid stuff. There's actually a strat in this room that I didn't know about until after this run. If you climb all the way up that right chain and then jump up and to the right, you can damage boost off of that executioner that I killed there, and he'll actually bump you up, and that saves like a solid 5 seconds that I had no clue it existed until like right after this run. I was actually kind of mad about it. You could potentially go through the entire game with hooks. I haven't been able to time it either way, but ball and chain is definitely a bit of a safety weapon when it comes to most parts. It is a little slower for most bosses, but hooks are really good for most of the game. So really, you're going to be switching between hooks and ball and chain most of the time. That was a really good first stage, by the way. I know I've been explaining game mechanics a lot, but overall, that was pretty solid first stage. I got the quick kill on Zarampla there at the end. You want to get at least 3 hits in on the head on his first little loop when he appears. And this is just an auto-scroller. You can't make it go faster at all, which sucks. I've tried deboosting over to the right side of the screen, but you can't go to the next screen until the go sign is triggered by beating the two-headed vulture at the end of the auto-scroller, which kind of sucks. The deboost is like impossible anyway. It took me like half an hour to get it. So really safe game up till about 5 minutes in, where there will be a ridiculous jump on windmill platforms that I do a really dangerous strat in this run, but there is a much safer way to do it. It just kind of depends on what RNG it gives you. What was I talking about? First level. Yeah, there's not really much else to say. You have to get all 5 of Moira's tears. I don't know if you saw on the first level how I shot a wall 6 times. It had a little tiny cross on one of the rocks, and then I jumped inside the alcove and grabbed something and it said Moira's tear. You actually have to get one of those in every chapter, or level rather.
Wow, fuck off,
if you want to go to chapter 6, which obviously you do in order to do the 100% best ending. There are 4 endings to the game. The 100% best ending is basically beat chapter 6 and do, I think it's 7 random merits, one of which being never use a continue, which is the hardest one to get. The others are really random stuff, like find a book in a ceiling somewhere and shoot the water in the swamp in a specific place. So it's all a bunch of arbitrary stuff. But really the big one is just don't use continues and go to chapter 6. So this was a really clean climb, by the way. Coming up here is the windmill screen, which is pretty reset heavy, or was when I always tried to do this dangerous platforming strat I'm about to do in about 15 seconds. But I'll just wait until then and then I can explain it. That jump right there really isn't that bad. This screen is on a global timer. It's this right here. This jump right there is really, really precise, timing and pixel-wise. But you can jump up to the higher platform at the top there and then make that jump, and it's a lot easier and a lot more forgiving. You just waste 1 jump worth of time. That's literally all. But I knew I had the pixel perfect strat there. This boss is a son of a bitch. I hate this guy. I call him Homeless Gandalf. It's completely random how many hits he'll take before he warps to the other side of the screen, and every time he warps, it obviously wastes a lot of time. 10 warps, I think, is how many? I think it's either 10 or 9 or 11. I think it's 10. I forgot to count just now, but that's a lot of warps for that boss, and it wastes a ton of time. So that boss is terrible, but again, not very difficult. Exactly. Coming up is the bonus screen. I usually try to get a 1-up just in case I have a bad run, because usually what I'll do is if I get past chapter 3, which is technically the halfway point of the game, but really it's more like the 1/3. If I get past chapter 3, I'll usually do a no reset run, just because I like finishing the game and it's only a half an hour run, or a little more than a half an hour if I have to call it a no reset run. As far as safeties you can take with the game, there is a hidden 1-up, which is the crown I just picked up, and the big heart appeared when I picked it up. That's a 1-up. And there are hidden 1-ups in every chapter of the game. In the first chapter, it's across the chandelier that I didn't bother going across. In chapter 2, it's in like the middle of one of the windmills, and it's actually kind of difficult to get. In this chapter, I actually, in all honesty, don't remember where it is. I don't know if I've ever gotten it in this chapter. Yeah, I can't remember right now. And then I'll point out, yeah, I took an unnecessary hit there. That sucked. That makes the rest of this really scary. Yeah, just shoot those dragons and then go under them. Easy peasy. Oh, I switched to the hook here because there aren't really any walls or any enemies flying around that I'd like to have a wide range for. So switching to the hook is Basically, you want to switch to the hook whenever you feel comfortable doing it, because you're going to be able to go through the game faster with the hook. Something about the timing of weapon throwing in this game, you can't just mash it unless you're like unbelievably good at mashing, which I like to think I'm pretty good at mashing, and it still doesn't work. You can only throw a weapon as soon as as soon as your character's throwing animation has stopped. So if you press the weapon button or the throw button while the animation's still going on, it won't count it. And then the amount of time it takes you to press it again makes the rhythm all off. So you need to have a certain specific rhythm in order to throw hooks really fast. So if you're planning on running this game and you want to start doing some hook strats and start using hooks throughout the levels, definitely start getting the hook throwing rhythm down, because it took me a while to. Even ball and chain has a rhythm. If you're fighting a boss using ball and chain, depending on how close you are, you can throw ball and chains faster, because you're only allowed to have 2 ball and chains on the screen. There is a deboost strat for these skeletons here that makes it go a little bit faster, so you don't have to jump back and forth and wait, but obviously I took that unnecessary hit earlier. Manticore fight, the way I do it, you can do this fight many ways. Obviously you go under him when he jumps, but when he does the long leap, that's when you know he's going to jump up and do a fireball attack. So when he jumps straight up, as he's jumping straight up, you walk away, and then when he's at the top of his jump, you start walking back, and he'll shoot the fireballs in a pattern so that there's always space for you to stand right in front of him, and the fireballs won't hit you. On this screen, you keep moving as fast as you can, and you're going to want to jump onto the platform as soon as Don Ramiro's hands are parallel to the platform you're jumping on. This screen right here, this is the first instance of the arbitrary goal you have to do for 100% is get the Amethyst of Gaul, that random book, so that you can start filling out that checklist. That jump right there is pretty precise. You kind of have to have good timing for it. I don't really know how to explain it. You just kind of got to get a feel for it. It definitely saves a lot of time. Then as soon as you grab the invincibility, you can kind of just jump through everything with good jumps. This guy is the second son of a bitch in terms of RNG boss fights. It's chapter 2, 3, and 4. The boss fights are really kind of shitty RNG wise. This guy, you can only damage after he goes up into the ceiling and comes back down, so he's on fire. And the amount of attacks he does between jumping up is random. Like, in this run, he does 2 attacks, then goes up, does 2 attacks, then goes up. You can have it so that he'll do the initial attack, like he does an initial knife attack every time. And the best RNG is he'll do that knife attack to start the fight, and then he'll go up, he'll come back down, do no attacks, go up, and then come back down, and you should be able to kill him in 2 cycles. If you have good mashing, and he does good hops. Here, I could have done 2 cycles, but he hopped away from me and hopped up, kinda up and to the left there, where he was just out of my reach, and I was kind of a pansy and didn't chase him, so I couldn't get hits on him there. So usually you can 2 cycle him if you have hooks. But yeah, that guy, you definitely lose a lot of time RNG if he decides to do more attacks. Here's the swamp. There are quite a few jumps here, especially like that one that I didn't get, where you have to jump and throw your weapon at the exact right time in order to like be like right in those little weird disgusting faces, like right up in their face, and throw a weapon at them so that you basically move through them without getting hit. Like here you're gonna jump, and then that jumping up and hitting that fly there, or jumping and then throwing your weapon up to hit the fly there, is a really precise jump. But those jumps, if you get hit by the flies, it's not really a big deal. You'll deboost back to safety. You're never really in any danger besides taking a hit. Quick turtles there is easy every time. They're on a global timer. I decided to stay with hooks for like the first time ever for the rest of the stage. For a long time, pretty much up until this run, I opted to stop at that chest to the left of that vine and grab ball and chain, just because it felt safer to me. But having hooks is usually faster. Definitely pay attention to that strat right there with the vine jumps. That is almost the fastest way to get through it. There, you can do an even quicker jump onto the last vine, but it's really dangerous, and you do not want to get hit on the vines because you'll fall in the water, and that's insta-death.
Fucking shit.
Okay,
thank God.
Two cycling Tarasca the turtle here, Tabasco turtle. If you don't two-cycle him, you've done something horribly wrong. You can two-cycle him with ball and chain as well, because when you jump, the extended range of the ball and chain allows you to hit him even though you're in the air. You can't hit him in the air when you have hooks, but you can throw a lot more when you're on the ground. So either way, you're going to two-cycle him. Coming in here, obviously you've got this little demon imp bird thing named Boo following you around. These little cavemen throw their sticks. It's completely random which way they'll toss them up when they die. If they hit Boo with the stick, he'll go out like that, which is annoying as hell. But it's really good to have hooks here because you can kill this guy a lot faster, and he's just basically a tank that you just need to get out of there. Here's a huge time commitment for a 100% run, is you have to come and get this crystal ball, and that's the only place you can get it. And the crystal ball allows you to see the Gamusin people, which is another one of those checklist things. But it's faster routing-wise to go grab the crystal ball and then come up here to get Moira's Tear, which we haven't collected yet, up here in this corner. If I'm not mistaken, I have like a really, really good spike maze here. These spikes are really shitty because these weird little totems make everything go dark and you can't see, and then you got the spikes and they're being dumb, and these jumps are stupid. This next jump right here is the dumbest. Oh, you have to completely kill your momentum, but not to the point where you've completely stopped midair. You have to be barely moving forward so you can slip in between those two spikes there. So you come over here, look at move some people, great, awesome. I've died so many times trying to do spikes or falling in those little pits of water there with the crystal ball, and you have to come back and get the crystal ball, because when you die, you lose. Your weapon becomes your knife again every time you die, and you also lose your special item. I don't really know what to call that. Your secondary, I guess. So Boo betrays you because he's a son of a bitch and he wants to eat your soul or something. I don't know why he's trying to kill you. He just sucks. But basically, in order to do it the fastest, you want to kill him when he's in the bottom left of the screen right there. I did pretty well. Could have killed him a little faster, but still pretty good. Oh, floating spirit head, dude. Ancient Souls is not a fun fight at all. Killing these little, I call them Madildos. Killing these little Madildos is usually pretty easy, but I was on a pretty good run, so this is a little shaky. That, and I'm used to having ball and chain for this fight, which you have a much wider range to kill the Madildos, so. This guy it's random where he spawns, and it's random which way he moves once he spawns, so you have to worry about dodging his little wavy balls and also not being where he is when he spawns, which I've had multiple runs where I have 1 heart left and he literally spawns on top of me and I die with absolutely no chance of survival. The 2 balls that he spits out, they're always the same, if that makes any sense. Like, one will do a specific S-curve and the other will do the opposite S-curve. And he always spits them wherever you are when he spits them. It'll be like an S-curve towards your location. So if you're a mathematical spatial recognition genius, you can kind of tell where they're going to be, but it's really hard to pay attention to all those details in order to kind of know that you can stay in a spot and hit him or not. Pretty much dying to any boss fight in this game, not really a huge deal. Obviously, it's a big deal time-wise, and you don't want to die. But in terms of like a marathon run, pretty much every boss fight, you're gonna respawn at the boss fight.
Like taking damage.
So really, the only time you lose is how much time it takes to beat the boss. Like how much time you've spent on the boss already. Every time you go to a new screen, you spawn on that screen, which is a more forgiving aspect of the game. So that's kind of nice, but there are certain places you don't want to die at all because you need a secondary item. Like coming up here, I'm going to get a key that I need to use like 4 screens later, and if I die, then I have to come back and get the key, which takes forever. So there are certain situations where you don't want to die like that, but in terms of bosses, bosses are pretty much the main place where you're probably going to die the most. That and general platforming mishaps. But I feel like as long as I stay practiced, platforming should never really be a big issue, except for maybe trying to do stupid hard strat in windmill. The reason I chose to get ball and chain for this level is obviously I shot up through the floor there, through that platform at the fireflies. You can't do that with hooks. And then there is a mid-boss quick kill coming up here that is made possible only with the ball and chain because you have to hit his head. And since when you throw the... Ooh, such a lucky D-boost there. Such a lucky D-boost that I landed on that little branch. Mendoza here. Bastard betrays you. You're going to want to either have ball and chain or there's a crazy, crazy hook strat you can do where you do a quick kill as well, but you basically deboost behind him, which is why it's important to have 2 hearts when you get here. And because you have ball and chain, and you're right up behind him, and you have to hit him in the head, since ball and chain starts by going up, you basically are throwing ball and chains directly into his head, even when he's holding his axe. So you don't really have to do much besides get your rhythm down to throw ball and chain as much as possible while standing there. Coming up here are some weird strats. There's actually some movement strats I wasn't aware of for this run. You can, coming up on the... Well, not quite here. Here's just more of falling. I grabbed the fairy here just for some extra damage on the cauldron down there, but you can fall to this chain on the right. No, I don't remember. There's some crazy strats going on. Oh, this chain on the right. You can fall down and then get hit by a bubble down there if you want. It's a little faster, but I opt for the glitched out spikes on the left. If you jump to the left off that chain and land in the very left corner of those spikes, they won't hurt you. And if you jump to the right, sometimes your hearts disappear, sometimes they don't. It's kind of weird that way. It's a weird glitch, but yeah, those spikes won't hurt you if you're all the way in the left. The one thing with getting ball and chain here is you might have to wait for the hooks like I did, because you definitely want the hooks for this fight. And also, if you don't have ball and chain for the cauldron, it can be kind of shitty because some of the bubbles can fall down in a weird way and kind of sneak in and hit you, but with the ball and chain, you pretty much hit every bubble as it comes down. So ball and chain is definitely the safe and also fast strat for the cauldron, but you definitely want hooks for this fight. Pretty simple first phase, just hit her until she goes into her second phase. And second phase, it's way faster to stand behind her because you can just wail on her. Sometimes you can dodge the fireballs by jumping over all 3 like that, if you're lucky and she throws the fireballs at the right spot on the screen. But you'll probably take a hit or 2. Luckily, they give you a shield and meat right beforehand. So that's where an any percent run would end. But since we got all of 5 of Moira's Tears, we're going to move on to Chapter 6. You can hold the weapon button to immediately skip this cutscene, but I forgot because I was nervous. So, important to hold the weapon button there to skip that little cutscene. So it's really important to get all 5 Moira's Tears, or else you end up doing an any percent run, and then if you got like 4 of the tears, then that's just a ton of time wasted off of any percent, so really you just had a terrible run. Hell is... Well, it's hell. It's not at all a fun place. There's so many places to die, so many places to take hits. Not really a lot of precise platforming. There's one little kind of fall slash jump you have to do over some blood, I guess is what it is, to go the fastest, or rather safest way. I'm not sure it's the fastest, but it's definitely the safest way up on this next screen. The rest of it is mostly just killing things efficiently, getting patterns down efficiently, a lot of efficient movement, little bit of time management sprinkled in. Really, it's kind of straightforward. Oh, something I forgot to mention that's like super like basic that I didn't even talk about. If you throw your weapon while you're on the ground, you stop moving for the duration of the weapon throw animation. So you're going to want to be jumping and throwing your weapon as much as possible. Usually the fairy ball will hit the second or third imp there, but it didn't there, so I'm glad I was ready for that. You got your meat there to refill in case you take a hit. And this is the precise platforming I'm talking about. That cross on the ship there indicates a safe spot in the water that you can just walk off the ledge and land on. That's a little safer than braving the knife-throwing knight up top, as well as the imps spawning below you. So, this fight you're going to want... Well, I guess if you have hooks, it doesn't matter, but if you die for some reason coming up to this and you only have knives, you're going to want at least 2 hearts for this fight, because if you fight that guy with knives, doing that strat I just did, it's going to take you long enough for him to come down to the bottom of the screen and actually throw one of those little scythes at you, like while you're below him. So you're going to take a hit if you have knives there. I think I've done one fight with knives where he didn't, like he barely didn't get there. So yeah, Zarampla you have to kill there, even though you can move on to the right side of the screen. Killing Zarampla there opens the little gate to continue on. I chose not to grab the shield on the left side there. I probably would have saved a little bit of time, because you need to come over here and get Jean Raymond's note. That's the last of the checklist things. But if I had the shield, I would have been able to just taken a hit from that headless knight and moved on.
Oh my god, I didn't jump off.
I probably could have taken a hit anyway, but I wanted to hold on to my health because, again, nervous, didn't want to die. Manticore refight, same thing. Walk away when he jumps, straight up. Walk towards him when he's at the height of the jump. Easy peasy. Wail on him. You've got the fairy with you if you didn't grab the shield for more damage. Incredibly important here that you grab that timepiece, that hourglass, to refill your time. Because there was only, I don't know if you saw, but around 10 seconds left on the clock there. There's also another time refill I got back in Chapter 3. You just kind of got to be aware of your time, be aware of where time refills are through this game, or else you'll just die unexpectedly, which is the most terrifying, awful feeling when the time starts beeping at you and you're just helpless. This climb was okay. I think I took one hit at one point, but I take this part incredibly slow. I just really didn't want to get hit more than necessary here since I was on such good pace. You could do this part much, much better than this. But the general idea is jump over fireballs when you can, duck under them when you can't, and take care of the bats when you get up to them. For the final fight here, you're going to want hooks, of course. And if you want, you can take a shield for an extra hit. But I chose to go with fairy for one of the first times here that I've ever taken a fairy over a shield, because I was pretty confident that I can take on Demon's Court and Will Ferrell pretty easily.
Dude, my rhythm's off because I'm nervous.
Here I'm talking about my rhythm being off because my hands are shaking. Rhythm with mashing in this game is huge if you're using hooks. Huge. If your rhythm is off, you're not going to be doing the damage output you need, and your strats are going to be off. Demon's Court, the demons will appear and do their patterns the exact same way every time. There's no RNG in that fight.
My heart's pumping.
Okay, so here's first phase of Will Ferrell here. If you stand kind of in the middle-ish and duck, his first attack will always go over you like that. Second attack, it's the same thing as with the Spirit Head. He'll throw 2 S-waves. It's the same S-wave every time. He'll shoot it at you, so if you know what S-wave is coming and you know how to dodge it, it's really easy. These diamond attacks, it'll kind of close immediately and then open up in the middle. You want to jump through that middle opening. And the little imps that spawn, as soon as he gets to half health, the imps start spawning faster and faster. Pretty much you want to prioritize the imps if you can.
No, come on, dude.
I messed up the heart there.
Like
I lost about 4 seconds doing that. It would have been a sub 28 if I hadn't messed up the heart. Ah, dang.
Yes. Finally.
But yeah, really,
Get fucking bopped with this.
really simple
Yes,
fight.
dude. I still
Really, really hard to grasp at first, but not a hard fight at all. And that is the game right there. What else to talk about with this run?
Go away, time, go away, time, go away, time, go away, time.
There's this random YouTube video I
Fuck,
saw.
bonus.
Random YouTube video I ran into pretty much right after I did this run,
Holy
and I
shit.
felt like looking up like what other people had done with this game on YouTube,
Oh my god.
looking into it a little bit more. And there's this guy who like last
Oh my
year
God, yes.
did an any percent run.
Yes.
And since it was any percent, I
World
never
record.
paid it any mind. I just assumed that like the
World
guy didn't know
fucking
where
record.
everything was and didn't feel like doing it
my
because any
God.
percent is faster or something like that, even though it like completely misses out on a level of the game. But it turns out this guy's any percent run is
died.
incredible.
So I didn't get a sub
It's
28.
ridiculous. I'll put a link to it
Holy
in the
shit,
description of this YouTube video, I think. He does some goddamn ridiculous things that I had no idea were possible. Like I was saying with the D-boost in Chapter 1 that I didn't know about, he had that in there.
Just have to make sure that I got all of
He
the
has hooks
shit.
the entire time,
I think I did. I got the hook.
but he doesn't have to get any of Moira's Tears or anything.
I saw the hand. I didn't.
He doesn't have a lot of the movement strats I do, a lot of the updated movement stuff, which his run could have been a lot faster, but there are a lot of strats that he has in that video that I'm going to try to start incorporating into this run to make this run even faster. Like that D-boost alone in the beginning is a free, I don't know, 4 or 5 seconds just right off the bat. The skeleton
God,
D-boost
where did I
I didn't
fuck up
get
here?
in Chapter 3.
I had to
Another
take the
free like 4 seconds or
I didn't
so.
fuck up anywhere, dude. I had
There's
sloppiness
some
in Chapter 6,
better
but
movement strats he
other
does
than that, it was
inside of the tree in Chapter 5, like descending the tree with all the cauldrons and stuff. He does some better movement there that I'm going to start incorporating as well that really doesn't save too much time, but does save some time. So just off this guy's like year-old strats I didn't even know existed alone, I'm already up 15 or so seconds. Then there's even more time with the terrible RNG I got in both Homeless Gandalf and Crazy Quixote.
that was dead.
With good RNG, better strats, I could probably get this down to, if not sub 28, then really close to sub 28 with like a really, really, really good run,
Yeah, man.
execution-wise and RNG-wise. But
Some bad.
for now, that's real time.
I don't think I got
Sub 28 is obviously super possible in game time because I got a 28:01 here.
that was what I wanted.
But
to
real
do.
time,
Drop.
getting it
I
below
had to wait for 'em all.
a 28 would be
Time RNG-wise.
hard to do, but not impossible, I don't
Crazy
think.
Quixote was normal. That's what he normally
So
does.
here's the good ending. You would get this ending.
But his hops.
Oh, I can explain the 4 endings. One ending is the any percent ending, where you don't have Moira's Tears, so you can't go to Chapter 6, so you basically only do 5 levels. And you're going to get the bad ending, where the king is actually possessed and he kills you. This is the checklist I was talking about before I talk about the endings more. Break Tolomera's Curse is basically beat the game. Save the Amadis is the book. Then I kind of clicked through them pretty fast there. It's save the Amadis, invoke the Lady of the Lake, which is throwing the hooks into the water until that hand with the sword appeared in the swamp. Be kind to the sirens. You are not allowed to kill any mermaids. That's what that is. Meet the Gamadus people,
Fucking puppet master.
which is
Oh
like the
my
little
God.
blue dudes that I ran into with the crystal ball. Find Jean Ramon's note, which is the note in the pillar in the third to last screen in hell, and then use no continues, which is just basically be good at game. And those are the criteria to get the best ending. So this is the best ending here, is you go and see this statue. The good but not best ending would basically be exactly this same thing, except you didn't fulfill all of the checklist items. So say you used to continue, but you found everything else. You would get all of the checks except use no continues, and then you just wouldn't see your statue, and you wouldn't get those extra bonus points. So that's the better ending. This was the best ending. And then there's a good ending where you use... I think it's as soon as you use 4 continues, death comes on screen, on the continue screen, and says you can continue at the cost of your soul. And what happens is you beat Luciferel, but then death comes on screen and turns you into one of those little blue ghosties, and then you just float along with all the little blue ghosties instead of the ghost of the dude coming down to comfort the ghost of the chick. So yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I'm really excited to submit this to SGDQ right now. I think it would be really fun, especially because Mr. Weebles, the previous world record holder for this category, is completely down to do a race with me. I think it'd be really fun to do a race, maybe as like a donation incentive. I don't know. I'm talking ahead here. I don't know if it's going to get in. We will see. I have high hopes just because it's so new and so optimized and so short. Yeah. New as in it hasn't been in an SGDQ. If you want to play this game, I'll put a link in the description. It's free. You can download it on PC, Mac, and I believe Linux at locomolito.com. That's the name of the developer of the game. He makes a lot of arcade-ish games for free that you can download from his site. So go there, check it out. I highly encourage you check this game out. Play through it. See how fast you can play through it your first time through. When I played through it for my first time, the Luciferel, the Will Ferrell fight took like a solid hour for me to get it. I died to the heart so many times, and I was so mad. Ugh, yuck. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully this world record doesn't get bopped super soon. I would like to see it get bopped. I would like this game to be faster, obviously, because that gives me more incentive to keep playing. But I'm gonna enjoy the limelight for a little bit, you know? So yeah, thanks for watching.